in one location and at one address, and a second address when we were hounded out of our property under the noses of the police who watched on the sidelines. We mustn't offend Muslims. And they signed my death warrant. I keep repeating this, but it's a fact. Because they are terrified of being labelled Islamophobic, racist. They are overwhelmed with Muslim population, and they're terrified of Muslim backlash.
And we had the Abdul Rahman case, and this was a gentleman who was a Muslim who went, left, Afghanistan, joined converted to Christianity, joined a relief aid organization, came back to help people in Afghanistan, and his family turned him in for converting, and they were going to execute him in Afghanistan.
The northern towns and cities are swamped. It's like walking into Pakistan or Afghanistan or Somalia or whatever, or Muslim enclaves, okay? And so they have depended on them for Muslim bloc votes. And so they've given them all this credence and bent over backwards. Sir, appeasement is not the answer.
When you're saying that law authority is afraid of a backlash because people are violating the law, I mean, to me, it seems that you are allowing this to overtake not just your culture, but your system of jurisprudence.
Yes.
Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. Last week we talked about the issue of Islam here in the United States of America, and of course, in the state of Texas. We're about to start our primary election here in the state of Texas, and one of the legislative ballot proposals is proposal number 10, proposition number 10, which talks about banning Sharia here in the state of Texas. And we know that we also have a non-Sharia caucus that has been started up in the United States House of Representatives, where I once upon a time served. So this is becoming an issue here in our country. And I could not think of anyone better than a couple of gentlemen who are our country cousins from across the pond to come over here and talk about what they're experiencing in the United Kingdom. And the organization SaveThePersecutedChristians.org is sponsoring two individuals who are bringing about a Legalise Apostasy campaign. And they're going to be speaking with us today, and they're going to be speaking all across the United States of America, to include the National Religious Broadcasters Association event. First of all, Nissar Hussain, a United Kingdom Christian convert from Islam, who's been forced into hiding due to ongoing death threats and violence. I thought it was a religion of peace. From Muslims seeking to punish his apostasy. He is a natural-born Pakistani British citizen raised as a Muslim in the UK who converted to Christianity as an adult. Neil Petrie advocates for freedom of belief alongside Hussain in the Legalise Apostasy campaign. He is a former British Army Intelligence Corps officer. Maybe he and I shared some time down in southern Afghanistan when I was in Kandahar and he was next door in Helmand province, including a posting with United States Intelligence Unit in Washington, D.C. He later ran security operations across Central Asia and the Middle East before focusing on promoting freedom and democracy. Nissar, Neil, thank you so much for joining us here in Keller, Texas, here in North Texas. Nissar, tell us your story, because it's quite disturbing and quite compelling when you hear this thing about, like I said, the religion of peace, but yet this thing, apostasy, is a punishable offense in Islam.
Yes, it is, sir. And I have a Reliance of the Traveller manual for every Muslim to follow. I left it in the car, but just to say, maybe my colleague can get it, but if you like, I can show you exactly in this manual that anybody that leaves Islam, which they refer to as the ugliest form of unbelief, demands death. I have another contemporary book on Islam, which says it is a capital sin. But if I may, sir, I think it'll do justice if I can give you an intro.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So I am born and raised in England in 1965. So I'm classed as first generation born to Pakistani immigrant parents. Life was good. Actually, grew up under British freedoms.
Yeah.
Grew up with the Jamaican Windrush.
My wife's Jamaican. So, yeah.
I come from a Jamaican church.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Church got a prophecy.
Yes.
And I, because of the failure of the Anglican Church, but that's another story. So, so I grew under British Western democracy, predominantly with English people. We were taught Britishness. I took on Britishness. I didn't know anything else. Apart from when you went home, naturally you had to converse in the Mirapuri tongue, okay? But outside of the front door, we were British. So I had amazing Jamaican friends, Sikh friends, and we were only a few in number at the time. But we all identified as British. But sadly, those freedoms have been taken from us. And the reason for that is the expansion of Pakistani Muslims and then the Sharia enforcement. So we were persecuted. If I fast forward, I married at the age of 22, 1990. My younger brother, Iftikhar, died very suddenly. Naturally, it was a very painful, traumatic experience. Nothing prepares you for that type of thing. My father had semi-retired in Kashmir, Pakistan. There's two aspects of Kashmir you'll know full well.
Yes.
You probably know it better than me. And so, he retired, semi-retired in Kashmir, and I had to break the news that Iftikhar had died, and he asked me to bring his body over. Something which I regret to this day. So this is actually, in April of '96. I converted at the age of 15, but through peer pressure, I had to let go of meeting with Christians and going to church because my mother threatened to go to my father. And if I briefly I have to give homage to my friend called John Lennon.
Okay.
Who was 15, similar age. A real rough kid, rough character, openly racist. Just him. You get the odd one, and but there's no threat to life, Yeah. And he'd go away for months and months, and then the school authorities would, collar him, bring him back to school. He'd play truant. He'd be doing the markets, working the markets, selling stuff, and anyway. On such an occasion, he's come back to school. The Mohican hairstyle has gone, the ear piercings have gone, the tattoos are covered, and civilized dress code, those bother boots have gone. And every time, break time, he'd take a book out from his carry bag, and I came to know it as the Holy Bible. And it just kind of blew me away. I thought, wow. And I surmised the change in him was...
You saw the transformation.
The transformation, to me, was the power of God in his life. And I was attracted to him like a magnet, actually, and he was so approachable. He just wasn't the same character. Prior to that, us guys were nervous of him, and he was very hateful, but now he's very sweet, he's loving. He's sitting there and he's talking about his Christian faith. He's born again Christian. Now I knew what Christianity was, but I didn't know what a born again Christian was.
Sure.
Yeah. So we would spend a lot of time in break times there on. He would be expounding the Bible and talking to me, and he imparted to me a Gideon New Testament. Now, you're taught that it's the Bible has been corrupted.
Yeah, the people of the book have been corrupted, absolutely, because there's no such thing as God having a son and all of these different things, yeah.
It's utter blasphemy.
Yeah.
And I think Americans need to realize this diametrically. Christianity to them is false. The gospel message is diametrically opposed to Islam. He's not the Son of God. It's utter blasphemy.
No such thing as the Trinity.
No such thing as a
No
Trinity.
such thing as Jesus was crucified.
Exactly.
So the whole basis of Christianity is gone.
It's gone. So they just revere him as a high prophet. Muhammad has put himself in Christ's shoes. So I nervously took it, put it in my sort of uniform blazer inside pocket, and I got in and I sneaked it up and put it under my mattress. And every evening I would read it. And when I read the gospel message, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John,
The red letters.
yeah, I gave my heart to the Lord.
Yes.
So I became a secret believer. And then he invited me to meet with his pastor. Now, I didn't know what a pastor was. And the next most amazing thing to me was John's pastor was a Sikh gentleman, Joseph Batoy, who also was a convert.
Yeah.
He was a son of a Sikh priest, Gurdwara, actually. And I just saw the gospel message played out, every color, creed. I didn't discern what religion you came from or who you were. Grace was free for all, you know.
Yeah.
And we'd have long conversations with the pastor as well. And but yeah, I made a commitment of faith, and he baptized me in his bath.
That's incredible.
Yeah, So then my mother discovered the New Testament after a few months, 4 or 5 months. And actually, I remember waking up one morning. So basically, she discovered it lying on my chest. I'd fallen asleep reading it, and she took it to my sisters, and they told her, "Oh, this is the Christian Bible." And I remember her enraged, just screaming and tearing the place down, and threatening to go to my father and tell him. He wasn't home at that particular morning. And actually, he instilled the fear of God in me. Big man, 6'4", ruled the rod of iron, And so I fell away from fellowship. And we use this word, backslide or backslidden.
Sure.
Yeah. And I didn't dedicate my life to the Lord until 1996 when Iftikhar died. And that's, from then on, that's when my problem started. And my family and I, at that time, we were just we had few children. We were harassed, intimidated. In a sentence, acts of terrorism.
You were attacked personally.
Yeah, I'll come to that, but there's two parts of it.
Yeah.
So in one location and at one address, and a second address when we were hounded out of our property under the noses of the police who watched on the sidelines. We mustn't offend Muslims. And they signed my death warrant. I keep repeating this, but it's a fact. Because they are terrified of being labeled Islamophobic, racist. They are overwhelmed with Muslim population, and they're terrified of Muslim backlash, religious backlash in this instance concerning us. Bearing in mind there's been 2 riots in Bradford 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, because I've been hiding under police protection for the last 9 years.
If I could ask you this, when you're saying that law authority is afraid of a backlash because people are violating the law, I mean, to me, it seems that you are allowing this to overtake not just your culture, but your system of jurisprudence.
Yes, it's what we call 2-tier.
Yeah.
Policing system, 2-tier judicial system. two-tier parliamentary system because you have a good number of Muslim MPs, which, by the way, are voted in by block.
Of course.
Muslim numbers.
Yeah, and we see that here in Dearborn, Michigan, and some other places. We even have some state house members here in the state of Texas now.
Yeah. So what happens is that they name calling starts, go for a car for these elaborate term Arabic. They're all
kafir, infidel.
Yeah. They're all Arabic terms.
Yes.
Because they are sort of taken on Arabic culture, and as well as the religion. Okay. But what they fail to understand, and I know from first-hand accounts by Pakistanis working in Middle Eastern countries, that they are referred to as convert dogs by the Arabs. That's because they're the official sort of ancestors of Muhammad.
Oh, sure. Direct lineage.
Yeah. Okay, so next thing you know, the most vulnerable feeling in the world is that when you've got a baby in your arms and a couple of young kids walking side by side, and you're surrounded by 10 angry young men, spit flying and cursing and cussing. And would you believe I'm referred to as a Jew dog? Yeah. So it just demonstrates the deep hatred of Christians and Jews laid down from the very inception of Islam, which has gone on from 1400 years to this very day.
622 AD,
Yeah.
the Medina phase on.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the same spirit, the same contempt travails to this day.
Yeah.
And then the odd good a Muslim young man steps in, saves a day, and then every time you're walking down the road along a high street, they know you don't know them.
Yeah.
It goes out like wildfire, and how it goes out like wildfire, one of my very close friends, who I assume to be a fellow British Pakistani, and I came to understand that there is no tolerance and acceptance or middle ground, told me, don't ever knock my door again, come to my home. And then he tells person A, and it goes all the way to person X. It just spreads like wildfire. Yeah. It's a medieval Arabic
7th century.
7th century the structure. And so, yeah.
Neil, you have the background in intelligence. What do you see from an intel aspect? Because, I have here the document was the Muslim Brotherhood Strategic Plan for America, written in 1991. I see this as a national security issue, not just a cultural issue, not a faith-based, but a national security issue. What are your concerns in the UK when you see these no-go zones and when you see these places that are fostering terrorism?
Well, you can imagine, I had 16 years in the intelligence corps, and I was in special forces and all the rest of that stuff. And, I'd seen the news on Nissar, and that's why we hooked up, really, was when I saw the issues. Because I'd already been looking into this problem. When I came out of the military, I worked in Muslim countries for 15 years, running security operations and security companies. So, you're naturally learning from that experience that, Muslims are Muslims, they're human beings like us, but the issues, as you study the history and you get into Islam, you find out that the foundation of the faith is Sharia.
Correct.
So the foundation is the law codes, because that is the bringing together of.
And there's no higher law than Sharia.
It's divine, because it's come from Muhammad, or it's come from the Quran itself. Most of it comes from Muhammad and the Hadith and his life and his sayings and utterances, as you know. So when you understand that, as an intelligence guy, you're looking at it, you're going, okay, so this is it, but it's law code.
Yes.
Okay, so law. So the issue, you might say is not so much religious or theological. It's a law code that they want to impose on you. And as you know, the Sharia is imposed on everybody under the remit of the ulema, who are the right-guided people, who are the lawyers who studied all of those different codes. So, looking at it being applied in Britain, in Europe, etc., I had grown very concerned. So throughout my time in those countries, I was studying it deeply and learning, what the major issues are from the intelligence analysis point of view, strategic point of view, as you're saying, because it's not just cultural, it's civilizational.
Yes.
Because we have our common law, which you share large
we have the
parts of
Constitution, rule of law, like I say, English common law.
But whereas the Sharia is broken up into 8 separate law schools, as they call it, and there are 5 major law schools. And the thing is with them, within that, all of these schools, all of us 8 schools, the 5 major or 3.
You mean like Deobandi, Sufism?
No, the thing of within the Sunnis, you've got 4.
Okay.
Sunni
Shia split.
Yes, Sunni Shia split. They all have similar laws, but not exactly the same.
Yeah.
But they do agree on several laws, because there are 7 issues that come where the punishment is detailed in the Quran or by Muhammad, and killing apostates is one of those. Yeah. So the death sentence is clear in all of the law codes. So every Muslim under Sharia must kill the ex-Muslim. Those are the rulings. Now, and there are 11 countries around the world that still maintain this openly, where they have them on their law books. So when you look at that, you go, okay, so you're saying I should kill anybody who leaves their religion. And, we've got one of our most senior human rights lawyers made the point that is a genocidal threat.
It is.
Exactly.
It's a violation of our freedom of religion. I mean, that's one of our first,
correct,
freedoms.
The point is, though, it's clearly identified as a genocidal threat. So it is the worst crime in Western law, but it is the worst crime to leave Islam in their law codes. So you have this diametrically opposed system, as Nissar was saying. So, from our point of view, when we looked at this, there needs to be a genocide case raised. Yeah. So one has been put together. It's put together under the aegis of, Western lawyers and a former Sharia court judge who had converted. So we had all the expertise required. That is now sitting in the hands of lawyers in London. So the aim is to identify to the world community that under Islamic law, because, it's often misrepresented, as you know, and people try to mislead, and, they are allowed to do that under their law codes as well to, progress the advance of Islam against others. So when you have that law code, all of them basically being put into court, using those 11 nations as the example of this genocidal threat that the Sharia represents to anybody who leaves Islam, then that will make clear globally that there is this major issue that is not addressed for, technical reasons within, political and diplomatic reasons more than anything. But, once they're into Europe in the numbers they are, once they are identified as the threat that they are to our civilization, we have to face up to it.
We have to.
Face up to it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when you read the document here, the Muslim Brotherhood document that was brought out as part of the Holy Land Foundation trial here in Texas, it talks about a civilization jihad. And it's interesting when you talk about the apostasy issue. When I was over in Kandahar, and we had the Abdul Rahman case, and this was a gentleman who was a Muslim who went, left, Afghanistan, joined converted to Christianity, joined a relief aid organization, came back to help people in Afghanistan, and his family turned him in for converting, and they were going to execute him in Afghanistan. And here we were, soldiers, sitting and saying, what are we here to do? Why are we, fighting and defending if this is their rule? So I'm going to ask the real hard question to both of you and see how I don't see it as one, but is Islam really a religion even?
It is a death cult. We've been under that death sentence for 20 years, and I will try to allude to what we went through as a family. I have to pay homage to my incredible family, actually, and the fact of the matter is that, the British government is a failure of the state. When a government fundamental principle is to protect its citizens,
Yes.
turns its back on you. And we could have got killed any time. Throughout the course of those 20 years, it's been pure grit and grace that's kept me going, actually. And the fact of the matter is that they've given credence to the ever-expanding Muslim communities. The northern towns and cities are swamped. It's like walking into Pakistan or Afghanistan or Somalia or whatever, or Muslim enclaves, okay? And so they have depended on them for Muslim bloc votes. And so they've given them all this credence and bent over backwards. Sir, appeasement is not the answer.
Yeah.
And I pray God, America wakes up and turns this thing around here, this Sharia enforcement.
Yeah.
You've only got a very narrow window. I was at the Patriots Academy.
Oh, Rick Green, dear friend.
Yeah. Amazing people. I was so humbled and honored to be there. The young people are so amazing. The following morning after the speakers, they were following me around. They were so protective and loving and so sweet. And I actually said, I give you 5 years. But a gentleman there, Pastor Krish, is it Danan, who spoke soon after me and said, Nissar, you're being very generous. We don't have 5 years. So I leave it to you. Once this great nation, if it ever yields to Sharia, Western civilization is gone as we know it.
And Neil, that's the thing, is that's why I asked the question, is it a religion? Because, you got the Council for American Islamic Relations, which is just a front group for Hamas. Yep. The first thing that they'll come out and say is that you're attacking, our religion, when they are a theocratic political organization. Yes. What can the UK do? How can Europe, turn this around? Because as Nissar just said, the politicians are going after a voting electoral bloc, and we see that happening here in America, in Minneapolis right now. So what are some of the things that you think can be done in Europe and can be done in the UK to maybe reverse this?
Right, well, obviously you've got the issues going on in the UK now where the Labour government, which relies more on the Islamic vote than anybody else, is in deep trouble. And so Starmer is trying to ram through, his policies now. Mm-hmm. So we're stuck with that at the moment, but it won't last much longer, in my opinion. The issues there are largely Islam related as well, in reality. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of socialist, impositions as well. But the reality is that people are deeply, deeply concerned about the influx of largely young men from the Islamic world who are in the UK now, coming over on boats, being welcomed and given housing.
Single military age males.
All that stuff. Now, and the Sharia court officials, as it were, all the ulama, their lawyers, are driving the community. And you can see them occasionally coming out and expressing their real desire, which is not just in the UK, as you said, across Europe, is the takeover. So how do you deal with this? First of all, show the world that the Sharia demands death for apostasy, which is not Islamophobic. You might say, how can he be Islamophobic? Yeah. And that is a demonstration to all of us. There are things to be feared. If your daughter converted, she couldn't come back, because that's it. They're gone as far as the law codes are concerned. So the issue is to ensure that these people are identified as it's not a religious issue. This is a simple legal one. They're genocidal. So the Sharia bosses, as it were, should be told, you can stay, but you go to prison because you're a genocidal threat to these people, or you can leave. And so you start, and at that point, the whole community then is under, the problem it has is that they listen to these people as their guides. If they're gone, the community falls to pieces so they can either leave, or if they wish to adhere to those rules, they will be dealt with as a genocidal threat to these ex-Muslims as well. It's going to have to get very serious, and that is where the problems will arise. And, obviously we've got people like, Mayor Khan in London. These are senior political figures, and he will...
Now we got Zohran Mamdani here in New York City.
Exactly. I mean, they'll be looking at, what I'm saying is Islamophobic. No, I'm saying it's a legal issue.
Yeah.
You people need to be dealt with as a problem as far as the West is concerned. And if it goes from there, it goes from there. But, we need to start with the understanding that we try and deal with this as peacefully as possible, because it is a civilizational battle. And we're over here, as Nissar said, to try and advise you guys about what's happened. What's happened to Nissar, his family abused for 20 years. Yeah. He's been in hiding for 9 years.
Incredible.
Driven out of his home, attacked, smashed about, and then hospitalized, and then a year later led out by 10 armed police from his house to never return, apart from to...
All because he decided that he wanted to follow the Judeo-Christian faith heritage God.
Precisely.
Which is amazing. You brought up a great point because you talked about the Labor Party. We are facing something in the United States of America we call the Red-Green Alliance. The Marxists and the Islamists.
Very dangerous mix.
Talk to us about that, what you see.
Well, sir, if I may pick up on what Neil said, this appalling Prime Minister we have,
Mr.
Starmer. He's the worst of the bunch so far. I'll go as far as say to you, Lord Ali, you might have heard of this name sort of bandied about. Lord Ali, he's one of his closest mates, Starmer's mates. When he became Prime Minister, he has him in his pocket. He spent £80,000 on his designer glasses and suits and his white blouses. A millionaire PM, previous CPS, head of CPS, Crown Prosecution lawyer, who failed, by the way, mass rapes of English girls. But
the rape gangs.
Yes, rape jihad.
Rape jihad, that's even better.
Yeah, so we can allude to that as well. There is so much to unpack. We could be here till midnight tomorrow. We still couldn't get through.
Miss your flight.
yeah, I'd miss my flight. So this man goes running around, living in his penthouse suite in New York because he's a millionaire business person or whatever. Nobody can tell me, and I know how they manipulate these people, that he doesn't have them in his pocket. So he's all for the kind of the Muslim community. They are always the victims, never the perpetrators. My amazing wife, 4 daughters and 2 sons, we are labeled as the victims, the problem. So my British patriotism and loyalty to my country has cost me very, very, very dearly. We've been on a scrap heap for the last 9 years. And if it wasn't by the grace of God, trust me, we'd be in the gutter somewhere, And so we're living, as I say, 9 years in a very obscure place, off track, under police protection. And this is 21st century modern England, a country which formulated religious freedoms and pushed it into 4 corners of the world. Actually, and so abolished slavery.
Well, John Locke, the father of classical liberalism, natural rights, your rights coming from God of life, liberty, and property. But yet you're being denied that in the 21st century because of a 7th century ideology.
Precisely that, actually. And I can't express in words my deep frustration and failure of the state. Okay, and so Theresa May, and forgive me if I wander from place to place, but I think it's very poignant Would you know of a lady called Asia Bibi of Pakistan, the infamous blasphemy law victim, who was languishing in prison for 10 years on false blasphemy charges? Pakistan has a big blasphemy against Christians.
Oh, yeah.
And we, the foolish government of the last 4 or 5 decades, funds Pakistan of British taxpayers' money to the tune of 300 to 400 million pounds a year.
Well, look at America and Qatar.
America, yeah.
I mean, Qatar still has on its books apostasy as a crime punishable by death, but we're making all of these economic deals with them.
My Christian brothers and sisters in Nigeria, Sudan, not a question asked. God bless President Trump. He's just freed the Nigerian Christians by taking care of the Boko Haram people. But getting back to my point, so what happened was, after 10 years of languishing in prison and even being trying to be killed in prison, she was completely segregated in her own block, in room. Actually, she was even cooking for herself in prison because of being poisoned on a few occasions, Okay, so we now have her release through the Supreme Court. The Muslim party caused a riot. They wanted her hung, drawn and quartered. Imran Khan done his level best. They were turning parts of Islamabad upside down and other parts of Pakistan. These are barbarians, 7th century barbarians. They were smashing motorcycles up and burning places down and even smashing their own Muslim cars, people that were traveling by, blocking. It was just something that's come out of medieval Arabia. So Imran Khan relented and said, look, put your appeal into the Supreme Court, and then whatever the Supreme Court then decides, you can have your own way. So they stopped rioting. Eventually, she was, again, the appeal was rejected by the Supreme Court. And so the army then had sort of surrounded Asia Bibi in a safe house. Her husband made a direct appeal to the vicar's daughter, Theresa May, the previous Prime Minister.
Yeah, Theresa May.
Okay. Now, I was under the distinct impression Sajid Javid, the first Muslim Home Secretary, rejected her asylum to the UK. But in actual fact, I couldn't have been more wrong. Theresa May had that file taken from him and put on her desk. She rejected it outright. She said openly she didn't want to cause offense or offend the Muslim sensibilities, the Muslims in Britain.
But see, when we do that, and Neil chime in, that shows weakness. The compromise and the appeasement, the acquiescence, it shows weakness.
As I said, appeasement is not the answer, but that's what's happened. They've appeased them for 34 years. Multiculturalism is a complete failure. I would go one step further and tell you integration is a failure.
Yeah.
We have first generation, second generation children of Pakistani parents, British Pakistani parents of my generation, who actually have become draconian. They would say that they are more, Islamic and following Islam. Actually, and so...
If I could step in there. So, there's one of the leading, Ed Hussain was a guy who wrote a book about his time when he was in Hizb Tahrir, and then he was eventually released, and then he wrote another book called Among the Mosques only recently about the UK specifically, and he said that caliphate thinking has really been growing over the recent years, and he said specifically, do not believe what the politicians tell you. And he was an advisor to Blair previously. So he's now living in America. He's got out of UK. So he's gone. So it's indicative of a man who visited like 12 different mosques around the UK, wrote a book about this, saw the rise in the caliphate thinking, saw the rise in the Salafist type thinking, tried to warn UK and said we cannot tolerate the intolerant, and said let's get on with it. So he addressed that issue, but he's now out of the country because we've now got Starmer in there who's a Fabian, and they are famous kind of slow communist type thinking, but they work with the Muslims because they see them as a minority, but they forget about the minority of the minority who they're willing to kill for leaving that religion. So, I've got many Muslim friends, particularly abroad. I've had many years, as I told you, living out that part of the world. So this is a legal issue that indicates the depth of difference between our civilization and theirs. And, the gutless politicians across the West, well, maybe gutless or greedy or whatever other motivations they may have, they're going to have to understand that once the genocide case is in place, people will be wondering, well, who's been complicit in this threat to our native populations under this? So we're bringing in Muslims who want to follow Sharia. They've established themselves. They're getting too well established to be a tiny minority that's easily dealt with. We need to look at how do we deal with him in the long term if we are to defend his right to live as a free man in Britain. He's already in hiding, so it doesn't get much worse than that, apart from them finding him. So, the threat is real. Ed Hussain, as a Muslim, has told us this. The issue is, that you can talk about moderate Muslims, but they're caught in it. They cannot escape the apostasy laws either. So, what we're trying to say is we must have that freedom. And if the government's not going to give it to us, we need a different kind of government. That's the reality. We need a more democratic government than we've got. The system is letting us down because we vote for people with about 20% of the vote. That's all they've got. And they can drive everything through on top of us. That's not good enough, and there are better systems. So we need to look at how we address that. And we have got plans for that as well. But the issue is Sharia. We get Sharia dealt with front and centre. It's your first right under your First Amendment.
That's right.
Right, freedom of choice in your conscience, your belief system, your religion. And if we can't defend that, then Western civilization deserves to collapse, doesn't it? If we can't even defend that.
Yeah, because, even here in Texas, we've had instances of honor killings happening here. And, you would think Texas, it's unconscionable, but yet it's happening. I want to close on this point. As I see the hijra, the movement of migration. I see
Zardani spoke about that.
I know.
But he failed to give the second part.
Oh, yeah.
That when he became a majority and was empowered by equally bloodthirsty,
that's right.
Then they wiped out 3 Jews.
Well, that's why I want to talk about is, the first phase is migrate, then you populate, then you agitate, and then you dominate.
Exactly.
Where are you in the UK, and what's your message, your warning to us here in the United States of America? Where do you see us?
I'll let you go.
Well, we're in dire straits, but we've been there before, Colonel.
I know.
You know how it works?
Dunkirk.
We've been here before. We've been in terrible straits. We've had a whole of London being flattened, 50,000 civilians killed by bombers. Now we've had a few people blown up by a few jihadi bombers. So we have to look at it and say, we're going to deal with this. That's the end of it. And it's going to be dealt with as peacefully as possible. And we'll use the law to do so, as necessary. So we address that issue of the genocide threat. And we address the issue of complicity in that genocidal threat to our people. And then if things kick off at that point, then they'll be kicking off. That's why we have police and military. That's why we have politicians who have to step forward and address the issues as they are, rather than what they would like them to be. And we have got, we've got people like Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, and others who are capable individuals who can address this issue and are getting more popular by the day because they are talking about these issues. And Rupert Lowe has just set up a new party that is addressing this fairly straightforwardly. So it will be dealt with, and but in the end, they either change their laws in terms of globally this issue with apostasy, They have to address that. And President Sisi addressed this in 2015.
Yeah.
Back in, in Al-Azhar. And he addressed it to those ulema, to those jurists and those lawyers, the Islamic lawyers. And he said, we are going to be hated around the world. We have to address this and change these things so that we are not seen as a threat. Well, they haven't done it.
Nope.
And now they are seen as a threat. And we are still the vast majority. And, we're still controlling the military, yes, and the police, they may be slightly lefty now, they've been taken over, as you know, in the UK in particular, but the point is, if they want to be seen as complicit in that threat, carry on doing what you're doing, and then when it's all sorted out, the charges will be laid. So you've got to wake up. That's what Nissar and I feel. They need to wake up. The apostasy issue is the crux of this, because Nissar has to live free in Britain. The day I can walk with him back through Bradford with all the other veterans around me and hundreds of thousands of Brits behind us, that's what I told him the first day I met him. That's when we know we're free again. That's my thinking, and I believe we'll do it.
You're going to be heading up to Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir.
What is your message to the members of Congress, House, and Senate that you will have an opportunity to meet?
Never ever.
Tell it to the camera.
Never ever yield to Sharia. Preserve your great civilization, your Western civilization, because you owe it to your children and your children's children. This is very real. I'm coming from the inside out, and I'm speaking it as it is. Right now in England, I don't exist. My family don't exist. Because the best way the capitulating British government can do is to get me out of the way, get my family out of the way, and try to bury their heads in the sand willfully, and pretend that actually Sharia, we don't have Sharia problem, and actually just continue to appease Islam. So please, was it Ronald Reagan who said that freedoms are one generation away? And obviously there's a larger portion to that. And something about sunset and sitting down and telling your children's children how it used to be. Well, that is how it is right now for us in England. But please, don't let this great nation of yours fall to Sharia.
And also to everyone out there, here we are in Texas. We're starting our primary election. The election day for this 2026 primary is March the 3rd. March the 3rd of 2026 is the 190th anniversary of Texas's independence. And one of the proposals that is on the ballot out there is to ban Sharia law. We cannot have any parallel system of jurisprudence in the state of Texas, in the United States of America, anywhere where people seek to live free. Neil and Nissar, thank you all so much. How can people follow you? How can people keep up with what you're doing with Legalise Apostasy?
Yeah, we have our website, legaliseapostasy.com. Please go along, look on it there. We are fundraising the case which Neil has put forward and clearly told everybody that what we hope to achieve against these 11 murderous Muslim nations that we, England and yourselves, do business with.
Yes.
And they are butchering and slaughtering Christians. And so, so please join us, support us, be informed. Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Bansharia.com is another site that is here specifically on your Texas issue and on that 3rd of March vote or proposition. So,
and folks, always remember that the term Islamophobia came from the Council on American Islamic Relations, an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terrorist funding case, the Holy Land Foundation case, which happened right here in Richardson, Texas. When people call you an Islamophobe, that means that they're trying to get you to self-censor. That's it.
It's designed to shut you down.
Absolutely.
Deflect from their sordid deeds. And just, so it needs trashing. It needs, that word needs banning. It needs putting in the bin.
If you just don't pay attention to it, you ignore it. because if you continue to respond to people demonizing and denigrating you with that word, they're going to continue to use that word. Again, Nissar and Neil, thank you so very much. The reason why I said Nigel previously, because Nigel Farage. I mean, because I'm listening to you talking. Like, yes.
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump, President, sir, come to England, save England. Save Europe.
I think we've done it a few other times before.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, God bless you guys. And everyone, thank you for joining us on this episode of Steadfast and Loyal. Please like it. Please share it. This is a critical issue for Western civilization and for our children and our grandchildren. God bless you all.
Before they burn it down.